stove that you can use outdoors. A stove that you can use safely indoors during power outages or blackouts or any grid down situation. A stove you can put in your backpack and take hiking or camping. A stove that's good for your bug out bag. And a stove that's easy to conceal if you're putting things away at a bug out location somewhere. Am I talking about 4 or 5 different stoves? No, just one, and I just described it to you. And one of the good things about it is at the time of shooting this video, it was less than $8. Hello, my name is Les, and I want to welcome you to the Cheffprepper channel. And in this video, we're going to talk about a stove that is, or can be, many different things. It can be used outdoors, any place that you have the space to set down a beer can or a pop can. It can be used safely indoors when the power's out. It can easily be stored in your backpack or your bug out bag. It's very light. It is very portable. I actually have it in my pocket right now as I'm speaking, and I'll show it to you in a few minutes. It cooks hot and quickly if you use the proper fuel. It doesn't take up a lot of space in your storage areas. It can be used to heat water for any of your just add hot water meals. It can heat any and all of your canned foods, your one pot meals from the cans, like you saw in this video. You can use it to cook some of the easy to cook meals where you only have to heat the water for a few minutes and then add in the ingredients like these. And you can fry some things, not all things, but some. And I'll show you guys here in this video that you can boil water, you can heat your one pot meals, and you can do some frying. And at the end of the video, I'll show you multiple kinds of fuels that you can use with this stove. What is this all-purpose stove that I'm talking about? It is this. It is the Fire Dragon multi-fuel stove, or a pocket stove. This is not a sponsored video. I just simply like this stove, and I think it's a very good idea to have one of these. And I'm going to show you and tell you many reasons why I think so. For size comparisons, there's a 2-burner propane stove that you've seen in some videos. There's the Fire Dragon compared to the butane stove and compared to a sterno stove. Of course, you're not going to be able to do as much on this stove as you can on the propane stove or the butane stove. It will be comparable to the sterno stove in most instances, but this is less than $8. You can use it safely indoors, use it outdoors, and all the other things that I told you about. And there is the fuel, Fire Dragon fuel. Fire Dragon, green and clean solid fuel. It is an ethanol based fuel. It is safe to use indoors. You can pack 3 of the fuel packets inside the stove, and it doesn't affect the amount of space that it takes up. And this stove, just like any other alternative stove that you're going to use indoors with an alternative fuel, you got to take some safety precautions: fire extinguisher, fire blanket, carbon monoxide detector. And when it comes to the carbon monoxide detector, I'm going to show you a clip of some readings that I had using some other stoves indoors that were actually releasing carbon monoxide. And you'll see from those clips why, when you get a carbon monoxide detector, it's important that it's digital so you can see the readings on it. Because you can have carbon monoxide just below the unsafe levels, which is still unsafe, but you won't know if you don't have a digital readout. The first thing we're going to do is heat some water, bring it to a boil for a freeze-dried meal. And this particular one says you need to use 14 ounces of water. So I have 16 ounces of water in the kettle. We're going to bring it to a boil as if we were going to make the meal, but I'm not going to actually make the meal right now. It's that simple. So let's put the water on. I will time it. Okay, when you use this stove, it has to be on something like a stove top or something that the heat won't damage. So I will let that continue to burn to see how long one of those cubes will last. At the 9-minute mark right now. So we're nearing the 12-minute mark. So between 11 and 12 minutes, it went out. So any type of just add hot water meal or drink, you can fix it on that little stove. Next, we're going to do a 1-pot meal from a can. And I think we already know that it will work, but we're going to try it just to make sure. And here's something interesting for some of you guys and gals. Do you see the expiration date or the best by date? October 2017. What? It's expired by over 6 years. For those of you who are concerned about such things, you really should watch these 2 videos. If it's okay when I open it, doesn't stink, doesn't look bad, it will be fine. It looks okay. It smells like it should. Looks okay in the kettle. We have to add about a minute to this because some way I hit the stop button, so it's actually 3 minutes and 14 seconds or so. Actually 5 minutes and a half. So about the 8-minute mark. So soup is up to over 170 degrees. And since it is a can of soup, you could also be fixing stews, chilies. You don't really have to bring it to a rolling boil out of a can. And so if you manage things right, you could heat 2 or 3 cans of soup, chili, stew, whatever, using one fuel tab. But for the video, I'm letting it go on up to a rolling boil. But you don't have to. The 9-minute mark. We're going to fry some eggs and sausage if we can. And since this gets very hot, we're going to have to raise the skillet a little bit higher than just setting directly on the stove. And so we're going to use this cooling rack as a grill. We got this as part of our $20 grid down kitchen from the Dollar Tree, which you can see in this video. For those of you who are concerned about the cans, I will show you the temperature of the cans as we go through the process of frying. Using olive oil because I couldn't find the ghee. It is a non-stick skillet. I don't want anything to stick. I haven't mastered the frying on this stove yet, but I wanted to show you guys that you can do it. I'm going to put the sausage in first so I'll know when the skillet gets hot and how hot it's getting. So the sausages are done. Will it last long enough? Temperature of this can is 62, 64. The cans are not getting hot, so our flame is getting low. One of the drawbacks of this stove using those fuel cubes is sometimes you might have to use 2. I think the eggs are going to make it, but if you were doing something more than eggs as the second aspect of frying, probably would have to add another fuel cube. So sausage and eggs made it on one fuel cube. In summary, the Little Dragon stove is very versatile, it's very portable, safe to use indoors, can cook nearly any kind of food from your prepper pantry except for things like dry beans. You won't be able to bake on it. Things that take a long time to fry or cook, you could do it, but you'd have to use multiple fuel tablets, so it's not really for that. It's inexpensive enough to have one for indoor cooking, one in your outdoor kitchen if you have such a thing. Keep one in your car, keep one in your bug out bag. And it has its own built-in grill or grate to set your skillet or your kettle on. However, if you use a very large skillet with much of a handle, the skillet just on the stove itself will tip up. Got to watch out for that. So those are some of the good aspects. Some of the drawbacks to the stove are the fuel is expensive. You can only cook for 1 or 2 people at a time on the stove. Heat isn't very adjustable, but you can raise up the kettle or skillet as you saw me do with the skillet, and the fuel burns quickly. So you might have to use more than one dose of fuel. But all in all, I think it's a great little stove. It's cheap, has lots of benefits, can use it indoors, and I would really like to hear from you guys if you think this is worth the $8 or so that it cost. And at the beginning of the video, I told you that I would show you some other fuels that you can use with this stove. And here they are. Here's the fuel that's meant for it. And there's other pocket stoves, and there is just multitudes of solid fuels that will work in there. As long as the solid fuel will fit down into this little compartment, you can use it with that stove. But not all of the solid fuel tablets are safe to use indoors. So if you want to use something other than the ones made for it, got to do a little research, make sure it's safe indoors if you want to use it indoors. And if you want to include fuels like the gel fuels, the Sterno Green, the Fire Dragon gel fuel, it is slightly different than those. Can't explain it, but it's a little different. You can even use rubbing alcohol and hand sanitizer, as long as the hand sanitizer is based upon alcohol. You can't see it now for some of the residue that's in there, but you can't just pour liquid into the little compartment. It does have ever so slightly small holes in the corners. So in order to use those kind of fuels, you're going to need a small can. This is an anchovy can, which will fit in there. Close the stove up so that it doesn't move around. And now, like you've seen me do in several videos like these, you can use the different types of gel fuels, alcohols, hand sanitizers, and so forth in your Fire Dragon stove. So when they say this is a multi-fuel or multi-fuel stove, they ain't kidding. And if you're looking for options of stoves to safely use indoors during power outages, blackouts, and the like, you'll really like this.